We're here in Orleans, Massachusetts, right at the bottom of the upper forearm of Cape Cod on the outer beaches. This is where Henry David Thoreau came via stagecoach in 1849 to begin his walking tour of the Cape. Enough people do this trek that people around here refer to it as doing a Thoreau. And we're not going to do a Thoreau today, but we are going to look at several of his key stopping points and some of the key things worth seeing along the route. In this episode, we'll follow in the footsteps of Henry David Thoreau and his book Cape Cod, published in 1865. We'll see beautiful beaches. We'll visit historic lighthouses. We'll enjoy delicious fresh lobster. And we'll discover something truly remarkable and unexpected along the beach. But worse than that, there's this horrible smell of death. Well, Thoreau didn't get to drive to the beach, and neither do we. They don't allow cars up at the beach. You have to park up here. I'm about maybe a mile, less than a mile away from the beach. And there's a parking area, and we shuttle in, which I'm all for. But the one thing to be aware of, this is a national nature preserve. The Cape Cod seashore up here is all part of National Park, designated in 1959 by JFK. And parking is, they will charge you for parking. It's $25 to park, so be aware of that. Okay, I'm boarding a shuttle. Oh, excuse me. I'm boarding a shuttle that they take us to go to Coast Guard Beach. Coast Guard Beach is where Thoreau began his journey. He certainly did not take a shuttle. He walked from Orleans to Coast Guard Beach. Now, one of the biggest differences between Cape Cod then and now are the trees. Back in the day when Thoreau was here in 1849, one of the most noticeable traits about Cape Cod was it was barren. There were no trees, because the biggest industry in Cape Cod at the time were the salt plants. And in order to make salt, you had to evaporate water. And in order to evaporate water, you needed to have fire. In order to have fire, you needed to cut down trees. And by the time he was here, Cape Cod was a desert. There were like hardly any trees anywhere, and the few that were just small, just regrowth bushes. And so we're going to be driving through a beautiful forest of trees. Okay, here's a map of Cape Cod. This is Orleans here, where Thoreau started. We're approximately right about here at Coast Guard Beach, and the walk takes us all the way up to Race Point on the very tippy top. And Thoreau did it all along the coastline, occasionally stopping into the towns to sleep and to visit and to check things out. Got a lifeguard's green flag, means it's safe to go in the water. Hey, what does the shark flag mean? Does that mean you see a shark if you wave it?
No, it just means that this is a shark habitat. So, they live here. It's their home, not ours.
All right.
Yeah. We'll put up a no swimming flag if we see a shark.
And that's the red flag.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm here at a sunny August day. So of course it's very crowded with beachgoers, but I'm going to be walking up towards the, it's called the Nauset Lighthouse, which would have been here in a different form when Thoreau was here. But what several people have commented who have done the Thoreau walk is that even in the summertime, once we walk just a few hundred yards north along the coast, there's fewer and fewer people very quickly. When Thoreau got here, it was a stormy, wet October day, and it snowed, it rained his whole first day, and so it was really quite miserable. One of the key geological features of this outer beaches at Cape Cod is this giant cliff to my right. Sometimes it rises 100 feet, sometimes it rises 150 feet. Right now it's not quite that high, but it starts here. It starts just behind me, and it goes the entire coast. Imagine a giant glacier of ice, a giant wall of ice coming along here, and finally stopping. Well, this is all that dirt that would be built up, and all that earth and minerals that would be built up beneath that giant wall of ice. Imagine rolling a bowling ball or something through the sand. It's going to build up all this, a little wall of debris behind it, or beneath it. And that's what this is. It's eroding. And Thoreau spoke a lot about the erosion that's taking place. He looked at certain lighthouses and said this lighthouse isn't going to stand, and he was correct. They had to tear them down and move them back further inland. So while a lot of what I'm walking on right now, this beach, is hardly unchanged from the time Thoreau was here, there's the ocean, the sand, and the cliff. Still, all of it has changed, right? The ocean changes every second. This cliff is never the same. It's constantly shifting and changing and moving, and of course the sand is the same way. So it's all very interestingly temporary as well as permanent. Here we have the Nauset Lighthouse. But there's a parking lot here, and you could see all the people here. So if you're ever here in July or August and you're frustrated by the crowds, no need to worry. All you have to do is just walk a little further because the people don't go very far. So we're coming up to the lighthouse here. We've walked from the Coast Guard beach, but it's what Thoreau referred to as hard walking. It's walking on sand, and so if you think, oh, 10 miles a day, which is what Thoreau did, that doesn't sound too hard. To me, it doesn't sound too hard, except when you're walking on sand, it is hard. It's much harder. I can imagine Thoreau's Tinder page. Henry Thoreau, single. I enjoy long walks on the beach and civil disobedience. Okay, I made it to the Nauset Lighthouse. If you want to get as much of that experience for your money in a single quick day, you could do what I did. Park at Coast Guard Beach, hike up here, check out the lighthouse, and then I'm going to hike back. You cover the first few chapters of Thoreau, and you walk right through the point where Henry Beston also lived. So you're covering two literary masterworks in one. Now this lighthouse behind me was not here when Thoreau was here. There was a different lighthouse here. It was actually three lighthouses combined. I've got a picture here I'll show you. They called them the Three Sisters, and they've actually relocated those probably just about a mile over here. I'm going to walk down the beach and then drive up to see the Three Sisters. And then they placed this here, and they brought it in much more inland than the previous lighthouses were because of erosion, because of storms, and they can make it taller now, make it out of metal, so they don't have to have it quite so close to the beach. Okay, I'm gonna walk back. I'm gonna drive up. We're gonna look at the Three Sisters. We're gonna go look at the Thoreau Lighthouse. Probably gonna get lunch along the way, and we're gonna end up in Provincetown. Road here headed out to the Three Sisters. Now you don't see a lot of people on this road. That's because they do the shuttles in, and there's no parking along the side here. Here's the Nauset light. But I'm going to turn left and head to see the Three Sisters. So just up from the Nauset beach light is a little park here where on display are the Three Sisters. There's 1, 2, and then behind me here, 3. They were taken down in 1911. They were built in 1838, which means that when Thoreau was hiking the Cape, that he definitely passed these. It's worth a little jaunt to come up and look at them. Here along the beach is the Marconi wireless station, just up from Marconi Beach. Now, when Thoreau walked along this beach just below me in 1849, there was nothing special about this beach, except there's an inlet here and a nice way to come up into Wellsfleet. Here in 1903, Marconi sent the very first wireless transmission. This doesn't have anything to do with Thoreau or with literary history, but it's just worth the stop. This is one of the few places where they'll actually allow us to climb up right up to the edge of this glacial spur that is in constant erosion. And they've got a fence here, but this is right at the edge. And notice there's no one on this beach. It's July. No, it's August. And there's not a single person walking up and down this beach. All right, so we've been following Thoreau up the beach. He would have done his first night at Wellsfleet. And I'm following along with him. It's lunchtime, and there's so many amazing places to eat food on Cape Cod, but I'm a nerd. I'm a literary nerd, so I can't resist but eat at Moby Dick's.
Enjoy.
Well, this lobster is fantastic. Very good looking, fresh lobster roll. Coleslaw looks delicious. I got it in my face. And that's just how I roll. That's just how I lobster roll. When Thoreau was doing his long walk along the beach, he made his first stop at Wellsfleet after 10 miles from Orleans. Then his second stop was here in Truro, 10 miles from Wellsfleet. And he stopped around the vicinity of the Highland Lighthouse, which is right behind me.
My name is Mark Aitchison. I'm a guide, and I work here at the Highland Lighthouse here in Truro, Massachusetts. And behind us is the Highland Lighthouse, also called the Cape Cod or Cape Lighthouse. Back then it was just a 20-foot wooden tower down at the end of the bluff here, about 500 feet away. And even back in the 1700s, 1797 when it was built, they worried that it was going to fall into the sea because of erosion. Well, 200 years later, they finally decided they better move the lighthouse because erosion is extreme here. And they built, by that time, it was a 430-ton, 65-foot stone lighthouse that we have here today. So this is what they moved from the bluff back in 1996 on a system of rails with hydraulic pumps to push it. And this was quite a project. It took 20 days to roll the lighthouse down the lane from where it was to where it is.
The great thing about this lighthouse is they'll give you tours of it. And I was really excited to go on one of these tours this morning, except right now they're working on the lighthouse. They've got some workers there, they're replacing the windows. But normally there's free tours every half hour. of the lighthouse. And there's a little gift shop there with people who are very knowledgeable about the light and the history of it. And just down the road, there's a museum about this whole area. It's all worth checking out. While this lighthouse has existed in different forms for various years, the very first lighthouse here was commissioned by George Washington in 1797. And it was the very first lighthouse on all of Cape Cod.
This is a white lighthouse with a 5-second white light flashing. Down in Nauset, in Eastham, Nauset Lighthouse is a 5-second red, 5-second white light, and it's a red and white lighthouse. Where mariners have to know their lighthouses to know where they are in the daytime and the nighttime, or they're going to crash their boat and become one of perhaps 4,000 plus shipwrecks we have off of these beaches here.
Well, Mark, has been awesome. Thank you so much for
My
sharing.
pleasure.
I really appreciate it.
Glad you could visit with us.
American Impressionism was really first taught here in Provincetown by Charles Webster Hawthorne. 1898, he formed the Cape Cod School of Art, and to this day we carry on that tradition.
I'm in the Thoreau Historical Society Museum, just down from the lighthouse. It's worth the entry fee. It's $8 to get in. There's 2 floors of very interesting local history. Definitely should be part of your visit if you have time. Thoreau stayed here and wrote quite a bit about the lighthouse and about the town here, and he even walked across the Cape to the bayside to check that out. But he, from here, he walked up along the beach to Provincetown, and that's where we're headed now. It's time to go to P-Town. So we're here in Provincetown following Thoreau, but there's far too much literary history for us to do in just this simple episode and this brief stop. Tennessee Williams, Eugene O'Neill both got their starts here. You can easily say that Provincetown is the birthplace of modern drama. Norman Mailer lived here. It's just a place that's rich with not just regular history, but literary history. When Thoreau was here, it was very different. In 1849, it was a fishing town, and he said that everyone was involved in just curing fish. That they'd catch the fish and then they'd lay them out on tables and cure them. And so the whole place was covered with sand and smelt of old fish. He said that the curing of the fish in Provincetown cured a lot of visitors of ever wanting to eat fish again. He said the only thing that they offered here was fish and beans. He spent the whole time he was here eating beans. Tell me who you are, what you're promoting.
Oh, Tammy Brown right here, and I'm at the Pilgrim House right here. And did you know that Henry David Thoreau, he actually stayed here? Then when he didn't like it and it burned down. But guess what? It's back again. And I'm doing my show Summer Angel, was written about my experience from 2019 right here. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. I'm actually doing a YouTube thing on Henry David Thoreau.
Nice.
So you are somehow just in touch with
Kismet.
So I'm right outside the Pilgrim House, which is a little restaurant and cabaret spot here in P-Town. Tammy Brown, the performer tonight, let me know that our man Henry David stayed here while he was here and wrote about it in his journal, though not necessarily in the Cape Town book that I read. Towards the end of a long day of walking and filming, I was ready to finish it with a simple drive to Race Point Lighthouse. But a little bit of research would have served me well. All right, well, I checked on Google Maps, and and there is no road going out to Race Point Lighthouse. It's just something that if you want to see, you're gonna have to go and see it on your own. So I'm here at the last beach on Cape Cod, Race Point Beach. This may have been an absolute folly. I'm not sure if you can hear me, it's extremely windy. But I've been walking about maybe half a mile. I still don't see the lighthouse. There's no one around, of course. There's a big bird sanctuary on my left, and that bird sanctuary is roped off, and for a while it was right up against the water, so I'm a little nervous about getting back because I'm afraid the tide's going to be higher. And I don't know what I'm going to see out here. But if I were doing the Thoreau, I'd have to come this way. And so now I'm just kind of curious. And I can maybe save you some trouble. And if I ever come back to actually do the whole thing, I'll know what to expect. First tip is to definitely do what Thoreau did. Stop in Provincetown. And then take this on the fourth day as just your little sort of much shorter walk compared to the other days. Okay, so it's extremely windy, but worse than that, there's this horrible smell of death. Started smelling it a while ago, and up here there's a giant thing on the beach. I don't know what this is. Curious whether it smells bad. Okay, this is definitely a dead animal of some kind. Oh, it's massive. I guess it's a whale. What else could it be? Oh, there's more of it up here. So this is a part of it. I'm gonna break the law here and step over. Yeah, this is a whale. Those are fins. And over here's his tail. These birds are looking at it very solemn. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Look at the size of that spinal cord. I don't know how much you could hear of me, but that is, hey, for me, that's worth the trip. I'm about a third of the way from the lighthouse. It's this beautiful, isolated beach and a dead whale carcass. I'm glad to be leaving the smell, that's for sure. I feel like coming around this bend, I should be able to see the lighthouse, but that might be just wishful thinking. So this is all part of the Cape Cod National Seashore, and this whole area, clearly they do everything they can to keep it away from most visitors. It's not blocked off, it's not barricaded or anything, but clearly they've done what they can to make it just not convenient. There's no roads out here. Okay, I've got a big bend here, and I've just got some hope that we'll see this lighthouse. Oh, it's right up there. So I'm here at the lighthouse, and I can look down and see the southern tip of what kind of wraps around the Cape. This right here feels like the furthest point of the Cape. So I'm here. I've got the lighthouse behind me. In that direction is the bottom part of the Cape. Out there is Plymouth. Probably out there, and straight out there is Boston. I'm going to go up closer to that lighthouse and check it out and do a send-off. But first I'm going to take a moment to enjoy this spot. Well, this is a Duane Anderson composition after Winslow Homer or Edward Hopper. Anyway, what a sight. And I do think there's a road here. I don't think it's a dirt, I think it's a sand road, so it might be just as hard to walk as the beach was. Hey, thanks for joining us, joining me on this trek through Cape Cod, literary Cape Cod. We've seen stuff important to Catherine Lee Bates, Henry David Thoreau, and Edward Gorey. Not to mention a little bit of Henry Beston. Come to Cape Cod, enjoy the beach, enjoy the pottery shops and restaurants and so many great things to see here, but take some time to appreciate the literature. Do some reading beforehand. Read Henry Thoreau's Cape Cod. Read The Outermost House by Henry Beston. You'll appreciate it, the Cape more if you do. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please subscribe and keep following us on our adventures as we literally travel the world. I'm Duane from Travel by the Book. So, final word to all you potential Thoreau travelers. The Race Point Lighthouse, the keeper's house, is a guest house. So you can get lodging here, maybe reserve a place for yourself, so when you get to here you don't have to do what I'm doing, walk back into Provincetown, or at least to my car at the Race Point Beach.